All right, Tom Trento here on I know what day it is. You
What
people
day is
out
it,
there
Tom?
making fun of me that I don't know what day it is. Tim, I know what day it is. It's today.
It's today.
I'm here today, and I was here yesterday, and I'll be here tomorrow, Lord willing. Alhamdulillah. Tom Trento at a couple of minutes after whatever hour it is on whatever day may be. And we're definitely here
Yes, we
live.
are. Live.
You know, sometimes we tape these shows on different days, sometimes when we have to do extensive research. And then
No, we don't.
I know.
We've never done that.
But I'm
what
making,
are you lying to them
I'm
for?
making an excuse.
No, you're trying
When
to.
you get
lie.
to be my age, you have an excuse. Not you.
I have a computer right in front of me. I can see the date if I put my glasses on.
Yeah, if you put your glasses on, that's the key.
Over 40. You know, right at 45 years old, my eyes started going, yeah. I had jet fighter pilot eyes, right? I could see behind me,
Yeah.
not just to the sides.
And we know Tom does not use the teleprompter because he can't see the
Can't
words.
see the thing there. So, but you know what? Hey, your body falls apart, but your mind doesn't. So what are we doing here today? All right, Tom Trento, on the 29th of October, 2 days before. Ooh, let's have some sound effects. 2 days before. Woo,
Jumpin' Jimmy Freaky Friday?
Oh, it's on Halloween.
That's right. That's right.
We got a double whammy.
We got,
I do not celebrate these pagan festivals of
Jumpin'
yours.
Juma, Freaky
Friday,
Halloweeny.
That's right.
We do
yeah.
not celebrate this. So you can
You
please
know
do
what?
not associate the Juma prayers with your
You don't
pagan
celebrate
holiday of Halloween.
Satanic holidays? You
No,
don't
we do
celebrate
not
Don't
do
put
those?
this.
pumpkin heads on
This
your...
is for you kuffar.
Do you chop off pumpkin heads, on Jumpin' Jimmy
All
Freaky
right,
Friday
well,
on Halloween?
today's Wednesday, the 29th of October, and we have a great show for you coming up in a little bit, our weekly briefing from Arie Egozi, live out of Israel. The Middle East is in flames, some people will say, and Israel's in the middle of that. And you know our work here at the United West. We are mobilizing Americans to stand with Israel because we believe that Israel is our foremost and closest national security partner. When I say we, I'm talking about everybody except the Obama administration. Things are strained, to say the least there, but that's no surprise. We'll get the direct story from Arie Egozi in a little bit, live from Israel. We got a couple of other items for you on today's show. Dr. Keith Abo. Do you know Dr. Keith
No.
Abo?
No. Who's he?
He's one of the characters on Fox News. He's a physician. I think he's a psychiatrist. And he's one of their commenters, all of this. He just came out with an article. We'll just touch base on this. He said, and I'm quoting Keith Abo, once I can find it. He says, it is time for an American jihad.
An American...
American jihad, Keith Abo.
What's that mean?
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit here. We'll go through that, what he means. Very interesting. The provocative headline was good, time for an American jihad, because jihad is related to killing, obviously, from an Islamic point of view. So I read it, and he's certainly not advocating killing anybody. He's advocating returning to the Constitution and being true, good American patriots. And we're also going to look at the dopey Christians in the state of Florida who choose, for whatever dopey reasons, not to participate in the selection process for the person who's going to fly the airplane that they're riding in. If you had to go, when you went to the airport and you had an opportunity to select from, say, 10 pilots or even 2 pilots, and you can look at the skill level of both, and it would seem to me that an intelligent individual who's concerned about self-preservation would want to know the skill level of both pilots. Let's say one says, I don't care where the plane goes. I just want to make sure everybody's well fed on the plane and they don't have to pay for anything. And the other guy says, I want to make sure you get there safely. common sense would dictate you'd gravitate toward the pilot that said, I want to get you to your point of destination safely. Well, the dopey Christians, and I'm allowed to say that because I'm one of them, Christian that is, not dopey, in the state of Florida, as I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes, choose not to participate in the selection process, and that is to the detriment of many Floridians in the state. We'll get to that in a second.
Ready.
And
We
are
got
you
it.
ready for that
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
All right, let's bring
Waiting on
that
you.
one on. Folks, we are 6 days away from a central and critically important election here in the United States, even more immediately here in the state of Florida. And I'm going to go over some numbers that we compiled. Mark, we still have not brought out all the research that was done, you primarily,
32,981.
after 2012, showing the impact of our little humble radio show, TV, internet show back in 2012, and more importantly, being able to predict how to move the ground troops for subsequent elections. So
Right.
we need to do that. But let's go to this little document we have here. If you can put it up for you viewers out there on theunitedwest.org, we have up a simple piece of paper with some copy on it. I'm going to read the copy for you people listening in your automobiles, listening on iHeart, listening on WSBR 740. I'll make it very understandable.
Do you need to borrow my spectacles?
I have my own here. They work quite well. 200s. These are 200s.
Yeah, are they really?
100s, man. I'm going down, man. I'm going down. 200s. All right. Well, the gist of this, I'm going to tell you the conclusion before we even start. The conclusion of this little analysis here is that a bunch of dopey Christians don't vote, okay?
And a bunch of Jews vote the wrong way.
And they
That's
vote the wrong.
right.
The Jews vote the wrong way. The Christians don't vote, and we get Obama.
That's what happens when you run a Mormon.
Yeah, that's right. That's what happens. All right, in Florida in 2010, the U.S. Census determined that there were about 19 million people. There's actually more now. Third largest state in the nation behind New York. Of the 19 million, 15 million are voting age citizens. That's what? Over what?
Over 18.
18. I think we ought to raise that to like 45 or something. Over 18 years old. There are, of the 19 million total population, of the 15 million voting age, there are 12 million registered voters. 80% of those allowed to register are registered. So we have 3 million, already 3 million people who can vote over the age of 18, not even registered.
Right.
Many of
Just
them are
drop
Christians.
that off, right?
Right, now...
I wish it was a higher percentage.
Yeah. Now, of the 12 million people registered in the state of Florida, we have in a general election somewhere around 8 million that actually vote. And in 2012, this is these numbers. In 2012, 8,474,179 people voted. That's 8 million out of 12 million registered, out of 15 million that could be registered.
It's already down to
deplorable.
60%, basically.
Right, deplorable. So the total number of votes cast in 2012 was 8,474,179. President Obama got 4,235,270. That's 50% of the votes cast in 2012 went to President Obama. How many to Mitt Romney? 4,162,081. 49.1% of the votes cast in Florida went to Mitt Romney. He lost by 0.9%, or 73,189 votes. What strikes you guys immediately when you look at the variation, the differential? 73,189 votes.
Infinitesimal.
Yeah, well, it's less, that one number there, that 12 million number, when you have voting age Christians, 80% of voting age population, that's the number that jumps out at me, because if you just just barely increase that number, then you're going to be, you win by landslide.
Yeah, I didn't bring that fact in, that of the 12 million registered voters, there are also 12 million voting age Christians, right? Which means some of them obviously aren't registered because they're part of the 15 million. How do we know that? Very simple. The census asks your religion.
Right.
And people write down Protestant or Catholic, and they go over to the Christian side of the ledger.
Right.
So there are 12 million Christians by the census in the state, but a good portion of them, because only 12 million total are registered, good portion of the Christians aren't even registered. Now, let's dig down a little deeper into this.
Move it down.
When you got 73,000 people that you lost by Mitt Romney, it's actually not 73,000 people because it's a one-for-one exchange. If somebody who voted for Obama says, yeah, I think I'll vote for Romney, then Obama loses one, Mitt Romney gains one, and you're really talking about 35,000 people.
37,000 people had buyer's remorse. It's
Yeah, and
you know,
they do
or if
now.
they knew the truth about Benghazi, and if
Yep.
if Benghazi was not
Yeah.
covered up
Yeah.
for
Flip-
2 months leading up to the election, and people knew the truth, that certainly would have been
That would've been
flipped. All you're
significant.
looking to do is flip 1% of the vote, and if the truth came out, how crazy does it have? Do you have to be to think that it would have been reversed?
Yeah, it's a 2-for-1 flip if you look at it.
If you look at it that way. But
Well, it's
let's
actually
give them.
it's actually more than that because these are the people who actually vote. So I give it like a double thing because they are actually voting, versus so they're getting like 2 more votes. You understand what I'm saying?
About 3 minutes, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, sure, yeah. All right, let me dig down a little more deeply here.
Okay.
And we're 6 days out, folks, and we have Arie with us in a little bit. We're talking about national security in the Middle East. We have 2 people running for governor, Charlie Crist, who we're going to do a little analysis on Friday, who is weak on national security, weak on the team he has to stand with Israel. We're going to prove that on Friday. And we have Rick Scott, who's strong on national security and has a much stronger team supporting Israel. That's why we're digging down and showing the importance
Right.
of coming out to vote right now. There are 9 million potential evangelical Protestant Christian voters, 60% of the population in Florida. There are 3 million Catholic Christian voters, about 20% of the population. The 80% of the population in Florida are Christians, believe it or not, of the 19 million, according to the 2010 census. There are at least 2.2 million there are about 2.2 million evangelical Christians who vote. How do we know that? That's established from voting habits of evangelicals in time past. If you're registered, doesn't mean you're going to vote. Usually about only 25% of the registered evangelicals actually vote. Which is sad. Now we have about 6, almost 7 million evangelical Christians who probably did not vote in 2012. We have about 1 million Catholic Christians who probably did not vote. Estimate conservatively 7 million conservative Christians, Protestant and Catholics, who probably did not vote when you go through all the analysis. We're taking that 7 million and we're slicing it and dicing it to 1 million. Without question, categorically, 1 million Christians, Catholic and
Did not
Protestant, who are conservative, that would vote in a conservative way, did not vote in 2012.
Now, understanding.
Unbelievable.
Now, I've actually looked at the demographics and numbers, and it's actually even more amazing than that. When you say that they didn't vote and they vote conservative, it's not like they just 55-45, they vote conservative, or 52-58, or even 60-40. 75 to 80% of that demographic vote. So that's a massive. So doing those numbers, all you really needed to have was 150 to 200,000 of those people just voting.
Just voting. It's amazing.
And I could say, if the Jews knew how Obama was going to treat Israel, you could have reversed 37,000 votes in Kings Point alone.
Now, I'm going to introduce Arie by what our summary in this document we put together. Here's a summary. Makes no sense in Florida to chase special interest left of center groups in a hope to get their vote. That's what the Republicans classically do. Oh, we've got to go get the Latino vote, the gay vote, the women's vote, the this vote, the that vote, all this stuff. This is never going to happen. It makes a lot of sense to chase the obvious demographic that is with the conservatives on most issues, the Christians, Catholic and Protestant. If more conservative Christians get seriously involved in Florida politics, the state will turn solid red Republican.
Forever.
And these Christians will become, if they're not already, Zionists, strong supporters of Israel. Our work on national security, what?
No, you're exactly right. The reason for national security they'll be staunch supporters of Israel.
Yeah.
They will be, and we're not even talking about getting 1 million out. This last election, you just got 150,000.
I'm talking to one person in Florida. Go vote next Tuesday, the 4th of November. Vote Republican. If you're concerned about national security, if you're concerned about the Constitution, vote Republican, particularly at the gubernatorial, the governor's level, because he's going to be much better, that individual, Rick Scott, than Charlie Crist, supporting Israel and standing against the Islamic State. Arie, I don't know what you know about American politics. It's probably not as insane and chaotic as Israeli politics, but we got our hands full here in this last week, and we're working real hard to bring the Zionist Christian element out to vote to support our current governor so that this state stands with Israel. And the reason why we're doing that, Arie, we have a 2-year run-up to 2016, and if the left gains control of this country in 2016, I fear how we will abandon Israel in the midst of enemies out there. How are you today, Arie Egozi?
I'm very good, waiting to talk with you.
Here we are, waiting patiently, and we're doing our weekly briefing with you. Give us a quick update on Israeli politics generally. For the uninformed American, how would you describe Israeli politics?
Israeli politics is like every other political system. It's now in a chaos because the coalition in Israel is abnormal, and but the politicians have one thing in mind: to stay in power. So they try to overcome all the difficulties by they call like two cats on a hot roof every day. It's either Jerusalem, other things. They fight with each other, and I think that this government will stay in power until the end of the period, because they want to stay. They want to stay in the office. They want to have the beautiful cars. They want to have the bodyguards. They are like politicians all over the world. They are the same. They're made of the same stuff. No special stuff. So this is the politics, but this is democracy, and I think that this is part of democracy. Politicians try to get what they can. They call, but that's the best system of that. North Korea is run in a very smooth way. It's not a democracy, but Israeli democracy with all the things that going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes.
Yeah. The question. Arie's explaining the human nature, obviously, of politicians. Now, it's important that there's a distinction, folks, between the United States system of government. We have a tripartite system. We have an executive branch, a legislative branch, a judicial branch. And when you get elected, you stay in power for a given term. Israel's a little different. They have a parliamentary system. And do we have him back?
Not yet.
Not yet. We're having a little trouble with the Israeli connection, but we'll get that sorted out. Usually, this Skype connection has been very, very strong. In a lot of the European countries, the parliamentary system, you have your group whether it's a Likud party, which is Netanyahu, or the Labor Party, or the Shas party, kind of the Orthodox Jewish party. And whichever leader gets selected, if you don't have enough to form a majority, then you got to start cutting deals with other parties to form a majority in your in the Knesset, or in Europe in the parliamentary halls. So it makes for strange bedfellows working together.
It really does.
We have seen our experience with Israeli politics, notwithstanding a lot of the day-to-day argumentation when it comes to security against evil enemies like the Hamas. There's a unanimity usually. Arie, explain a little bit to the folks your parliamentary system where Netanyahu's party, the Likud party, has to cut deals with other parties that they may not be that friendly with in order to get a majority, in order to lead.
Of course, Netanyahu had to make a coalition with people that I don't think that will be in his living room on Friday nights. But because that's the way to become a prime minister, to get to power. His normal partners are the Orthodox people, the religious people. This time they are out. The ultra-Orthodox. This time they are out. He's now in coalition with the settlers from the West Bank, and that gives him strength. But that forces him to support them. I don't think that he will support all the things that he supports now, unless his partners are the people that want to continue building in Judea and Samaria. This is now the reason for the big fight between the U.S. and Israel, because Netanyahu just announced that he's going to allow the construction of more than 1,600 new apartment in surrounding the area that surrounds Jerusalem, and that immediately brought a big attack from the United States. Some anonymous sources accused Netanyahu yesterday for being a coward, and just an hour ago the White House released an announcement that says that this does not reflect the opinion of the White House, but the ties or the relations between the administration and Israel are now in a very low point.
Let me ask you about that. And this is critically important because, again, as we're coming up to an election here, people can see this administration's treatment of Netanyahu. And one of our producers here is Jewish and very familiar. We're all very familiar in South Florida. There's 800,000 Jews in the state of Florida, about 500,000 in the sound of our voice right now. And many of those, 80%, 75, 80%, voted for President Obama twice, but slowly more and more are having buyer's remorse. So it's important for the Jewish people of South Florida to see the mistreatment of Israel and Netanyahu, this administration. But let's look at this settler thing for a second. People hear these terms and they get confused, and the law gets thrown in there and the UN gets thrown in there. Let's take a minute to kind of sort that out. That's a very important point. You have Judea, Samaria, which, I don't know, I'm a student of the Bible. As I understand Judea, Samaria, they're Jewish lands for about 3,500 years, but now there's a dispute about Jews living in Judea and Samaria. Step one, and give us a short, easy answer for the person who doesn't know anything about this. Why are people upset that Jews want to live in Jewish land?
because the Palestinians claim and say that this is their land that was taken from them in the '67 war. And it has been going on, this conflict has been going since then. Many settlements have been built and still are being built in Judea and Samaria. Most of them were approved by the governments along the years. Only a few are as we say, partisan settlement, that people just took a caravan and put it on a hilltop. But most of them were approved. And these are organized places with schools, with kindergarten, with all the services. I don't think that any government, not now and in the future, will be able to take the Jews out of Judea and Samaria. And that's exactly what Netanyahu says again and again. And he's attacked for that. I think that if a peace agreement is reached with the Palestinians, which I doubt very much, a small correction or small fine-tuning of the region could be made, but the major part of the settlements that they call settlements, some of them are big cities, will stay in Israel control forever. That's for sure.
All right, I have been to some of those settlements on some of our previous trips, and you're being driven up there. And they say, okay, now you're going to see an Israeli settlement in Judea or Samaria. So I'm looking for tents or for, like tabernacles put up during Sukkot. And,
some camels out there or something.
Fires burning in the desert.
Yeah.
You drive into development cities with stores,
Walmarts
and,
and everything.
And you go, what
by
is
the way, I was told yesterday by a friend that calling this place a settlement is a big mistake. The semantics is doing a bad job. They should be called cities, villages, but not settlement. Settlement has a negative connotation, and I think that this is a mistake. Some of them are cities, some of them are villages. They are built up. They are growing all the time. And they will stay there forever.
They're not going anywhere.
You're right.
You've seen them, Mark.
Yeah, and now understanding in these quote-unquote settlements, you have huge factories there that are employing Palestinians, that are employing Israelis, that are employing all across the board. They are hiring hundreds and thousands of people, massive factories in these settlement areas. They're actually very large cities. I mean, as large as Boca Raton and large as Fort Lauderdale and everything.
Palestinians work in all the factories in the West Bank, and in addition to that, they build all the new houses that are being built there. Not in Israel is a building construction in the building construction now. Israelis like to work in high-tech companies. So all the Palestinians are actually building those settlements. Without that, they will not have any income.
Can you imagine?
There's also something to blow up in the future.
Can you imagine the typical Palestinian? I hate going to work today. I'm making a lot of money, but I hate going to build the Jew houses.
Absolutely.
They're torn.
Well, the fact is, the majority of quote Arab Israelis or Palestinian Arabs, if a new state were created tomorrow and they had a choice to be a citizen of the new Palestinian state or to keep Israeli citizenship, the vast majority would prefer to live in Israel under quote occupation.
Under occupation.
Now,
34 minutes.
Just to give you an example, the daughter of Hania, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, she was ill a few weeks ago. He sent her to an Israeli hospital. He could send her to Qatar or to Jordan. She was here for 2 weeks, and the Israeli doctors saved her life. So of course the preference is natural. Israel is a very advanced country, and they will prefer to live in Israel, not in any other place.
Yeah, it's about like
bizarre.
And here's the other thing too is the BDS movement, the boycott,
divestment and sanctions.
Yes, which is out to shut down Israeli businesses that work in the settlement areas, like they did with, who was that, SodaStream?
Yes, Soda
went after
Stream.
Soda Stream.
So,
yeah.
and they went after that. And here's the irony about it: when these companies do cave and they do, relinquish their power to these BDS movements, the people who get hurt worst aren't the Israelis; it's the Palestinians
Absolutely.
who actually work in these companies, who are like 80 or 90% of the workforce.
35 minutes after the hour on Wednesday, the 29th. Tom Trento here with our good friend from Israel, Arie Egozi. Arie heads up the website. It's right behind your head, Arie, is Israel's Homeland Security Home. And the website is a font of information on national security issues, analytical issues, defense issues. You need to go there. Damon, why don't you give the exact URL out?
I as in igloo HLS.com. And for anyone interested in military technology, intelligence, Israeli security, it's absolutely phenomenal. For anyone who's into the military security aspect, you have to go to it. I-HLS.com.
But I will tell you, some very interesting. In spite of the fact that the war is going on between Netanyahu and the administration, when our defense minister Moshe Ya'alon was in Washington, they agreed on the purchase of 20 additional F-35 stealth fighter from the U.S. So there are two parallel things. They call like two cats, but the serious things are going on as ever.
That's an important point. And I want to dig down, Arie, with you on the Moshe Ya'alon situation last week, where he was just completely disrespected in Washington. Today's Wednesday, the 29th. And this article, put up the chicken poop article.
Okay.
We can't say the word that's written on the
in
title.
quotes.
Yeah, it's a different word.
Yeah, it begins with an SH and ends with IT.
Yeah, we can't say that word. But the administration has a tremendous amount of power, the Obama administration. But the military-industrial complex in the United States has a tremendous amount of power also. And, 20 F-35s is a big chunk of money for the United States, a big amount of jobs for Americans.
$2.75 billion.
A $3 billion deal. And the lobbyists from K Street are working like crazy with the senators and representatives saying, you guys better not let Obama screw up this deal, because thousands of people will be out of work if he gets pissed at Netanyahu and turns down all these F-35s. Plus, who's going to go fight all these crazy people out there if Israel doesn't have the F-35s?
Right.
They're going to come in our backyard.
I'll tell you another thing. Next week, at the facilities of Israel Aerospace Industries near Tel Aviv, they are going to inaugurate a special production line for wings for the F-35. Israel will manufacture 800 pairs of wings for the F-35. So Israel can do it. It's a special wing, and the head of the F-35 program will come to Israel to be present in the inauguration. Those two things are going parallel. On one hand, they accuse each other, but business as usual. Business as usual.
Yeah. Business as usual. And at 39 minutes after 4 o'clock on the East Coast on the 29th of October, just 6 days, folks, before you vote, we have Arie Egozi with us, giving us a briefing on what's going on in Israel. And I'm going to read something to you, Arie. Tell me what you think of this couple short paragraphs. Impotence against terror is spreading as rapidly as the Ebola epidemic. The writing was on the wall in Jerusalem, just as it was in Syria, Iraq, and now in Canada too. Terrorism never stops, not for a moment, but in Israel and elsewhere. Bad eyesight has become a sudden epidemic.
Absolutely. The eyesight.
Sound familiar? Does it sound familiar?
Yeah, the rest.
That's
yes,
you. That's your article.
I know. I know what I wrote, and that's exactly what happens. I think that the coalition I told you last time, the coalition is a big joke. And you see the Turkish tanks on the border between Turkey and Syria doing nothing, standing there like in a Broadway show, and the people are being butchered and beheaded, and the fact that some jets from the US, France, and other countries throw some bombs, that will not stop ISIS. That will not stop ISIS unless this coalition. I give you another example. The last American soldier left Afghanistan, I think, earlier this week.
Yes.
Afghanistan will be taken by the Taliban in no time.
Yep.
In no time. So this so-called coalition is a bad joke, and it's a big danger to the world. Not for the Middle East. Not for the Middle East. Yesterday they forced a British journalist to explain. Of course, he was forced to do it, to explain. They use the internet. They use YouTube for their purposes. They are clever, they are sophisticated, and if they're not stopped now, God forbid.
Yeah, we actually played a portion. In fact, if you have that if you can roll that, the guy, we have a piece of that tape. James Cantelli, I think his name is.
Yes.
From England. I tell you what, Arie, we were discussing it on our show yesterday.
Right.
This guy does not look like he's coerced. He's out there. He's doing a stand-up news report. He's being sarcastic. He's got inflection. I mean, either it's the Stockholm syndrome where he's been in captivity for 2 years. They got him.
I don't think so. I think he was forced to do it with an AK-47 behind him. I think I cannot. When you're in such a situation, you say what you're being told to say. I think so. But never mind. Back to the point. ISIS is gaining ground. ISIS is killing more people. And the world is dumb. The world does not want to see or hear. And the day will come very soon that it'll be too late. Believe me, too late.
Well, I actually thought his report was right.
This guy, yeah.
And I actually thought the reporting was actually excellent about him talking about how he's showing the real footage on the ground and saying, listen, we're here.
We're winning.
We're winning.
Yep.
And I don't care what your politicians are saying over there, what type of line they're trying to feed you about airstrikes are working or about this and that and this and that. We're winning. Look. And he's showing the hard evidence, on the ground. And I got to agree with him. Even though the report is coerced, I know that it's edited to make it look better and all that. It just looks so authentic. And I got to go, all right, weighing the evidence, it looks like they're actually winning over there.
On the other hand, see what President Sisi in Egypt is doing with the Hamas in Gaza. He blamed the Hamas for killing 30 of his soldiers, and he's now kicking some ass in Gaza. He's going all the way now, and he told, you are to blame for that because the people came through tunnels from Gaza, and I'm going to screw you because you killed. He's a general. He was the chief of the Egyptian army. And now the Hamas in Gaza are in a bad point, in bad shape, because he is not going to let them get away with it. Believe me.
Well, let's do this, because you raise another very, very interesting point for the geopolitical situation going on in Israel. If we can throw a map up, guys, of Israel. Part of our work, Arie, here at the United West. We have 4 objectives to our mission. We defend the United States Constitution, something you guys don't have. You don't have a constitution over there.
We don't have a constitution.
You need to get one of those. Don't have our State Department help you write it because they'll build Sharia law in as a prerequisite. We defend Israel's right to fight, to exist. We fight Islamic jihad. And we fight President Obama and his leftist Marxist policies. And one of the action elements, we're an action-oriented organization. We are equipping and mobilizing people to be Zionists political Zionists. A lot of Christians are theological Zionists. We're trying to have everybody be a political Zionist, that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel, and that the Jews actually have a homeland and ought to keep it. And in doing that, we educate Americans. And we have found that once good Americans who may not be fully informed on the issue, once they understand the geography of Israel, just the simple geography, how tiny the country is, where the enemies are located on its borders, where the mountains are. Once they understand this geography, they see the unbelievable task this tiny country of 7 million people have against 330 million enemies around her. Jordan, a friendly country, now having their king speaking some nasty stuff. Could you take a second? Let's go geographically around Israel and help the average viewer and listener to our show at 47 minutes after 4 o'clock in the afternoon understand the threat element at each of these points on the compass to Israel. Let's start to the west, because that's been in the news a lot over the summer, Operation Protective Edge, and Gaza. How big is Gaza? How many people in there? Who are the people? What is the threat to Israel?
Gaza has something like 1,500,000 people living there. The exact number is not known because most of them live in refugee camps. And then I'll tell you a story. When El Al bought the first 767, we were flown from Tel Aviv to Eilat with a Boeing with a captain that works for Boeing. And we approached Eilat, and he made a right turn. And then the guy from Eilat told him, "Now you're over Egypt, now over Israel." And in 20 seconds, he was over Jordan. And he said, "Why? Is that so close?" He said, "Yes. Everything is mixed together." So you have the Gaza Strip on the west. You have farther west, Egypt, the Sinai with all the terrorists now. You have Jordan, which is
well, let's stay to the west first. So we got the Gaza Strip. That's what, 22, 23 miles by 2 miles or so?
4 miles, yeah, 4 miles in
4 miles.
In some parts, yeah.
Okay, and there are no Israelis, no Jews in Gaza whatsoever, correct?
No, the Israelis pulled out of Gaza. And when we pulled out of Gaza, we told that if we are out, they will leave us alone. And they did. They continued to launch rockets into Israel, which I cannot understand why. Why can't they just live their lives? Gaza could have been a place with millionaires. They have a beautiful beach. I was there. They had beautiful fish restaurant. The labor is very cheap there. Every hotel chain would have built hotels and resorts there. So they're stupid. And now they live in a big sewer instead of changing their lives. So Gaza is one problem. Gaza now Egypt closed the other side. So now they are jailed between Israel and Egypt, which is their situation is really very bad.
We have up right now a map for our folks driving in cars, listening on the radio. Go to theunitedwest.org, theunitedwest.org. Watch this. We'll go back to the map. On the map, we're showing the Gaza Strip, 22, 23 miles by 4 miles. Then directly to the south, that's Egypt, right? That's the Sinai,
Yes.
everything below there.
That's the Sinai Desert, Sinai Peninsula.
Is it just a desert? Are there any Walmarts or McDonald's or anything like that in the Sinai?
In Sinai, there were resorts that were operated by Hilton, by Sheraton, by all that. Everything is closed now because terrorists are now controlling. Now the Egyptians are trying to do something. What you have in the Sinai, you have the multinational force that is trying to control the peace treaty between Israel. But this is they don't have any they fly with the helicopter above to see whether Israel or Egypt have moved forces. But Sinai is now controlled by Bedouins and by terrorists. It's a haven for terrorists. And only now, after the 30 Egyptian soldiers were killed, Egypt is really beginning to do something against them. It will be a big war in Sinai. It's a huge area. They know the area. They know where to hide, and I'm sure that the Egyptians will have to mobilize their air force and tanks to try and gain control on the Sinai Peninsula.
All right, the obvious question, Mark, right after this, the obvious question is who's killing the Egyptians? And we went over this a little bit on yesterday's show. The factions that were close to Mohammed Morsi, who was the Muslim Brotherhood president
Muslim
for about a
Brotherhood,
year,
yes.
they are still very upset, and Morsi's still on trial, and many of the Muslim Brotherhood brothers are. So the Muslim Brotherhood insurgency are killing their brother Sunni Muslim Egyptian Muslims over
Correct.
political reasons now, and
Correct.
General Sisi is now cracking down on those. Unbelievable. Mark, you had a thought?
Yeah, I just want to go back to Damon. If you could follow me around with a mouse cursor on this, is just to point out what the reality is. And when you go on the trip with us in March, you'll see this for yourself firsthand. But this is what stands out, and Arie knows this oh too well. The topography of Israel is highly critical. If you look up at the West Bank area up there, the Judea-Samaria area, right there says West Bank, that is all mountainous region, very high elevation, not really suitable for irrigation and farming. You go down further and south, you see down towards the south, towards the Eilat area down in here. Keep going further south, you see that it all becomes desert area and
The Negev, yeah.
and the Negev. And when you keep going off, now the only really fertile land is to the east of the Judeo-Samaria West Bank area, right in there. And look where Gaza is at. Gaza is in a prime fertile region. It's a prime fertile region. So there is no excuse whatsoever that this area cannot be the same productivity, irrigation-wise, farming-wise, city-wise as Israel. Yet, the Gaza, the Hamas government, the Palestinian government, it's the same thing, chooses destruction and to launch rockets in that other area. Now
They don't care about their people. They have their bank accounts in Switzerland and the Cayman Island. They have the money, and they don't give a shit about their people. They live in Gaza like dogs.
Yeah. Now look at the
Many of the houses were demolished, and now they don't even started to rebuild Gaza, and winter will be here soon. I really pity them. I really do. In spite of the fact that they launched rockets to Israel, I pity these people, because a bunch of Hamas leaders are leading them to an even deeper hole in the ground. No other way to explain that.
And getting rich in the process
And getting
of it.
very rich.
Absolutely.
Very, very rich.
Now, one other final comment on this is, if you are to do some type of peace deal like Obama recommends, 67 borders or something even worse, you go back up to that West Bank area, all that mountainous region. Now you start putting rockets and missiles on top of mountains to launch off to the left, and right in that little green area there to the left is Tel Aviv Airport. All the industrial. I mean, it's insane.
Exactly.
And that's what you. Yeah.
would be.
If we go back to the 67, no aircraft will be able to land or take off from Ben Gurion Airport, because if you go there, the airport is lying like in your hand. Of course, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
And going back to the 67 is suicide for Israel. So it won't happen.
For our audience here, and the maps tell so much.
They really do.
Next week when we bring you back, Arie, we want to go up north a bit, look at Lebanon, Hezbollah, and then go over to Syria. Look at the geography, the tunnels now that Hezbollah has,
Right.
what's going on in the Golan. We want to give everyone an understanding what the ground looks like. And Mark, you're right. We're going on March 21st. You're welcome to come, folks. Anybody can come on this trip. Cost about $3,000 or so. We leave March 21st, 10 days. We're going to go to all these areas we're talking about. If you want to come on the Allot extension, that's 4 or 5 days. You can do that too. Contact me, Tom, at theunitedwest.org. We'll send you all the information. Start saving your money for that. But Arie, the foolishness, everyone listening here at 55 minutes after, we're going to have to let Arie go in a second. If tomorrow all the Israelis say, okay, the Arabs, the Palestinians can have all of Judea, all of Samaria, and tomorrow magically that happens, that's Thursday. On Friday, war would break out, and there'd be attacks against the Jews. And then on Saturday, the Israeli military would destroy all the people that just attacked them, throw them all out again, and we'd be back to where we were on Wednesday.
And then on Sunday, Obama would come out ripping Israel for attacking the Arabs.
We're attacking the Arabs. Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't describe it better than you just did. Exactly what will happen. So that's the reason why it won't happen ever.
Of course.
Ever.
We got to do a video on that.
Even if the next prime minister will be from the far left, that will not happen.
It will not happen. No,
it will not happen. Of course not. You have to drive in the area and to see the distances between Tel Aviv, Ben Gurion Airport to understand. I fly over Israel many times, and you see the distances. It's crazy. You cannot change anything, because if you change something, we'll be rocketed, we'll be shot at every day.
Right.
Absolutely.
Every day.
All right, Arie, we appreciate you being with us. And go to his website, folks, Israel's Homeland Security. Say it again, Dave.
I-HLS.com. It is a must-do. Anyone that likes military
All this
intelligence,
stuff.
all the good stuff, all the guy stuff.
Okay.
And the women like it too. Arie, thank you very much. We'll see you next week, okay?
Thank you very much, Tom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Arie Egozi, folks.
He's a bad man.
Yeah. He said a bad word in there, too.
Well, he said it with a, Israeli accent, so it's okay.
It's going to get by.
I think we'll fix that for the radio and leave it for the internet.
It's
You know what? They hit the dump.
They can dump that if they want to. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
I mean, especially when we had
Well, we
chicken
didn't get
poop.
to a couple of topics that we
especially
wanted
when
to
we
hit
had-
with Arie. We didn't get into
especially the chicken poop one.
The chicken. I think what we need to do.
We kind of hit it.
In our new studio. Now, all you folks out there, we've been telling you about a new studio. We're in the process of building it. It's a little more complicated than you can imagine. And this one's pretty cool. But the next one is going to give us the capability of bringing small audiences.
Right.
And dancing bears and race cars and whatever we want to. So
Sleeping dogs.
We'll be able to do that. Sleeping dogs. Lulu, good job. But I want to continue each week when we have him on to get a series of maps. We'll maybe even get Mark Langfan.
Mark Lamb.
The map man, yeah.
Put those up there. It is so critical. And any of you folks who are thinking about coming with us, you got to watch the show. We're going to lay out a lot of stuff, preliminary information that we're going to do in March. And you're gonna do the equivalent of an associate's degree. All right, It's not a bachelor's degree. You got to come a couple of times with us. But a 2-year degree, we will jam-pack the information. But not just for information's sake, for activism. We activate activists is what we do.
Right.
And that means standing for the United States, standing for the West, standing for Israel. We will equip you to do that. But right now, we got to say happy trails to the folks.
We have a few seconds.
And this is my landing. I'm looking right at the clock.
I'm looking at the
it.
clock. Right.
We got 48 seconds left to kill.
Do we?
I can sing. Yeah.
Well,
To go to 0-0.
Who are you voting for in the governor's race?
I'm going to vote for Rick Scott personally. I'll tell you that right now. I can do that. And why? Because I believe he's better on national security, better for the state of Florida economically and every other way. And Charlie Crist is just an idiot.
Oh,
he's a
He's a
whore.
total
He's a
moron.
political whore who is more concerned about being in office than serving people. It's not a public servant. He wants to be in office. Rick Scott's worth a couple of $100 million. He could be on the friggin' beach smoking cigars and hanging out. But he wants to be in the middle of this mess and get abused by all these people because he believes he can help. Okay.
All
on
right,
that
that's
note-
how you
on
end
that
the show.
note, we're out of here, ladies and gentlemen. See you tomorrow. And Jem Chowdhury.